As a result of the assassination of Shinzo Abe in Nara, the former Prime Minister of Japan and a member of the House of Representatives died in the hospital on July 8, 2022. In the last 90 years, this incident has been considered to be the most historic assassination in the history of Japan. At the time of his assassination, Abe was very popular among the people, and even his opponents regarded him as a very respectable person. Shinzo Abe is best known as the former head of the Liberal Democratic Party of Japan. It has been recorded that he served as the prime minister for the longest time in the history of Japan. In addition to this, he was also the youngest prime minister in the history of Japan after the Second World War. On the eve of the Japanese parliamentary elections, Abe was assassinated amid an election campaign just 48 hours before the elections. Since this assassination was committed, the Liberal Democratic Party have gained a lot of popularity. After the World War II, the Liberal Democratic Party of Japan played a dominant role in the history of modern Japan, which is known as the right-wing nationalist party. As a consequence of this assassination, not only did the popularity of right-wing movements increase, but left-wing movements also saw their popularity fall sharply due to this assassination. The records of Shinzo Abe's killers, leftist political tendency, caused the Japanese people to suffer the consequence of his murder. The Prime Minister of Japan, Fumio Kishida, the leader of the Liberal Democratic Party, took advantage of this change in balance to win the majority of votes in the elections and inflict a heavy defeat on the Constitutional Democratic Party of Japan. According to the group's website, the Constitutional Democratic Party of Japan is the most important leftist movement in Japan, as well as the most important opponent of the government under Kishida's control at the time. In terms of the Liberal Democratic Party, Abe is considered one of the top leaders. In particular, his efforts to revive Japanese nationalists had an impact on other members of the party who were influenced by his ideas. Following Abe's assassination, Liberal Democratic Party supporters received more votes than in previous elections. As a result, this party was able to win the majority of votes in both parliaments. This had the effect of increasing the possibility that Abe's idea will play an influential role in the power structure in Japan after this election. He was an outspoken advocate of revising Japan's constitution, and he repeatedly emphasized how important it was for Japan to play a more prominent role in international security interactions, and that the constitution should be changed as a result. In the opinion of Abe's co-thinkers, the main focus on their work is to change the ninth principle in the Japanese constitution. The Japanese constitution, also known as the Pacifist Constitution, rejects the use of force in the resolution of a dispute. This concept is fully expressed in the ninth principle. As a consequence of this principle, Japan adopted a policy of desisting from using war as a means of resolving international conflicts and renounced it as a sovereign right. In addition to changing the constitution, the Japanese government wants to increase the country's military budget to deal with China's threat, but does not come without extensive changes in the constitution. As a result of the threat from China and North Korea, Japan has increased its coordination with the US military, and the Liberal Democratic Party plans to change constitution to increase the military power against regional enemies. As a result of the start of the Russia-Ukraine war and the strong resistance displayed by the Ukrainian army against the Russian army, which went against the predictions of many experts, the idea of strengthening this country's army and fighting against the world's top military powers was fostered. Taiwan is an ideal example of this, and it puts great emphasis on self-defense as a result of Chinese aggression. It has been a long time since the Japanese military demonstrated its power in public. for the first time in a long time during the Hokkaido Island maneuver that took place in December 2021. Several experts believe that the strength of the Japanese army is comparable to the strength of the armies of France and Britain, and in some cases they consider the Japanese army to be stronger than the British army, which is an empire of the seas. Furthermore, the United States Army has an effective presence on Okinawa Island, which has increased Japan's military strength. There is a possibility that conflict between Taiwan and China will involve the United States. This has caused the Japanese military doctrine to be seriously reviewed, and the military power of Japan's army need to be strengthened in the event of a conflict, because the fire of war between United States and China will probably spread to the borders of the land of sunshine. Shinzo Abe was considered a symbol of Japanese nationalism during his prime ministership, was assassinated in 2022. During his chancellorship, he tried to take a superior position against North Korea and China and showed Japan's determination in the region. This issue caused him to be accused by his opponents to militarism and the revival of Japan's aggressive expansionism. On the other hand, his supporters introduced him as the revivalist of Japan's national pride, the pride that had been damaged for years under the pressure of North Korea and China. As the world is on the precipice of another collapse, the death of one of the most important political figures in Japan's history has left the country in the state of shock. This impact is manifested in several ways, but the most significant manifestation is the beginning of the process that's reviving the pride of Japan as a nation. In the situation that the United States is facing the threat of China gaining power, Japan can play the role of the most important ally to the United States in confronting China. The gun that ended the life of Shinzo Abe could be used as a weapon to end the life of the pacifist constitution of Japan as well. The assassination of Abe can be the beginning of the revival of the power of the Japanese army in the field of politics at a time when the life of the most important ally of the United States had come to an end. Maybe the Japanese army can fill his place.